So we've queried the homes and we have the data available to us, but we haven't shown them yet. So that's what we're doing in this video. We're going to show the homes on the map and also over here in the list. So let's get to it. So we're going to start on the home page. So why don't I just close everything out first so we're starting from scratch. Pages, index, home page. And if we look into the component itself, the home component, so everything it does, it tracks the bounds of the map. It debounces them so they don't change so frequently when the user's zooming in and out. Then it queries the homes using the debounced data bounds. And then we pass that through the use last data hook to stop that flickering from having as it's querying new homes. Finally, in this last data variable, that's where the homes are at. So what we're going to do is go down to the map and we're going to pass the homes over to this. So we're going to say homes or houses, same thing I guess, but so houses. So first of all, we're going to say last data, is there any? So if that's true, we're going to pass last data dot houses. Otherwise, we're going to pass an empty array. And the reason for that is on the first initial query, this is undefined. So if that's the case, it will just receive nothing, but it won't freak out at all. Otherwise, it will pass over the houses. We're getting an error because we haven't set up the map component to receive them yet. So we're going to hop over to src components map, and we're going to set this up to receive those houses. So we go to our interface defining the prop types, and we're going to say it's receiving houses. And this is a little bit weird, at least the name of it is weird. So we're using code generation, and we have some types generated for our houses query. But the type that represents sort of a single house is actually called plural houses. And that's just because of how what the query looks like. We're asking for houses and it returns us an array of each house. So that's the only reason it's called houses. But basically we're going to use this interface here to say that we're going to receive an array of those. Now I've already set up the import here, so you just have to uncomment that, copy and paste this, come down here and say that you're going to have an array of those bad boys. Okay, so in the map component, we have to receive the variable. And now we can go down inside of the map itself, so between the opening and closing, and we can map over each of those houses so that we can display them as a marker. So we're going to do that. We're going to houses.map. That will give us a house. And what are we returning? We are returning a marker. So just like that, it's going to have an opening and a closing. And now we need to give the marker a few pieces of information to keep it happy. So we need a key because we're iterating, so we can use the house ID, that's unique. We need to tell it where it's going to be, so that will be the house.latitude and the longitude, the house.longitude. Just going to save that so I get some formatting. So we need to set the offset of the left to -15 so that the little house shows up dead over the center of the position, and the offset top to -15 as well. So now we're ready to show whatever's in the marker. Because if you were to just do this, syntactically it's correct. Where's the browser? But it's not displaying anything yet. So that's an issue. Now I am seeing some red here in the bounds input from global types, which does have bounds input. So this must just be VS Code being a little bit weird. Okay, yes. So inside of the marker in the map component, we're going to put a button. We're going to give the button some styling. So we're just going to say it's going to have a width of 30 pixels, a height of 30 pixels, and a font size of 30 pixels, like this. And we're going to say that it's a type button. So that's all for now. But as it is, you also won't see anything because the button is sort of transparent. So we're going to show an image. as the button content. So image, close that out. It's going to be an src, and it's going to point to /home solid.svg, which is an image, sorry, not style, src. That's an image I have over here in the public, home solid, which it's XML because it's an SVG, but this here represents the house. Okay, so we have to add an alt. So we'll just call this a house. You could put anything you want in here. You could put the address of the house or whatnot, but we'll just put house, and we'll give it a class name of a width of 8. So by doing this, we should be able to go see the houses. So there they are. These are our houses in Toronto. See, I'm zooming in and out. I've got no flicker because I used that use last, what was it called again? Use last data hook. And we're good to go. If we move off the map, we'd have none of houses, come back, and it requeries them and finds them again. So the next thing I want to do is, I want something to happen when I click on them. Right now, nothing happens. What I actually want is a little pop-up to display showing the details of that house that was clicked. So to do that, I need to store in state somewhere, basically which house was clicked. So first I'm going to go up, just double check that use state is imported correctly. Looks like everything's being imported here for me, except search box, which is fine for now. So we're good to go and come down here. So what we're going to do is set up some state. We're going to call it selected, and set selected is equal to use state. It's going to start out as null because there's nothing selected. And the type for this is basically one of these houses here. So we'll just copy that type in here. Now, or null, because you don't always have a selected house. So we're just going to say it's either going to be a house as returned from this query interface here, or null. So now we have selected. Let's get a value into that selected. So when is that going to get a value? It's going to get one when the user clicks on a button, clicks on one of these houses that are displayed within the markers. So we're going to say on click. So when the click happens, we're going to set selected to whatever house was being iterated over at the time here. So house like that. So coming back here, clicking that would have put a house into state. We can verify that. We could do console.logs or use the React query, the React tools within the browser if we wanted. We could go to components, find the map component, look inside of the state, and the first state here is the selected. So it does have a house in here. If we were to click it, see it changing, whatever value's in there. So it is working, but why don't we just display it as a pop-up? So back to the code, go below or above, it doesn't matter, but I'm going below where we mapped over all of the houses. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, is there a value in selected? If so, we'll do a short circuit and going to do parentheses. And in the parentheses, we're going to show a pop-up. So basically, if this is true-ish, truthy, keep going and return this value here. That's going to be a pop-up like that. So pop-up, it also needs a latitude and a longitude. So it's going to be the selected house's latitude and the selected house's longitude. Selected.longitude, like that. And we need to set 2 additional props. I'm just going to save it so I get formatting. Come down here. So we need a way to basically unset the selected house. So when is it going to get set back to null? So that is going to be on close, which is going to call an arrow function that will set selected to null. So the pop-up will, when the user clicks the X, will call on close, will unset the selected, which will remove the value from state, and we will no longer see it. So we also have close on click. Now this is like anytime you click anywhere in the pop-up, should it just close? No, we don't want that because we want the user to be able to click a link in there that we have. So we're just going to set that to false. So in the pop-up itself, you can put HTML. So we're going to have a div. This div is going to have a class name of text center to make sure all the text is centered within it. And we're going to start things off with an H3. So the value for this H3 is going to be the selected's address. And if it's really long, it might make the pop-up way too long. So we could just substring it and say get the first 30 characters, something like that. So let's add a class to this. So it's a class name of px4 to just make sure that it has some this is B. X is horizontal, so horizontal padding. So we're going to come down here. Below the H3, we are going to put an image. So this is using the image tag from Cloudinary. This has a lot of props, so we're going to come down here. So this is a class name of MX Auto to center it, MY4 to add some vertical margin. We need to set the cloud name to not as a string, as a variable. Process.env.next public Cloudinary cloud name. We need to pass in the public ID so it knows what image to display. So that would come from selected.publicID. Next, we want to make sure we use the HTTPS secure link, DPR of auto, quality of auto, and we'll come down and set the width. So we're going to say the width for this one is by default 200. The height for that, we're going to do a calculation to get the 9:16 version of 200 width. So that'd be 9 divided by 16 times 200. We're going to crop so that it fills that space. And what area of the image are we going to crop? We'll let it choose. You pick the one that's the most interesting. Let's just see, make sure it's working. Click one of these. Image gets dynamically generated, and we see that here. We can close it. Took a sec. There we go. It was working. I just clicked the wrong place. So last thing I wanted to put here below the image is just a link so that you can go see the house that you're viewing in the pop-up. So href backtick so we can embed values /houses / the selected's ID like that. This contains a link that just says view house. Cool. So if we were to come back to the web, pop open one of these, view house, it links us to the house. We're seeing the details. We can click around, go back home. The map remembered where we are. Things are looking good. Next up, it's going to be to display the houses over here on the left. And to be honest, it's very similar. We're going to be mapping them and then just putting them into some divs so that they look nice. So for that, we can actually close the map, go back to the home page, and we're going to import a component called house list that does not yet exist, but we're going to create that in a second. So first, let's go down into the component where it said the word house list. Convert that into the component that we will be creating and pass it the houses like that so that it's receiving the same data as the map. So even though it's failing right now because this doesn't exist, that's where we're going to go and create. So into your src components house list, let's just uncomment everything right away because we're going to need all of it. And we can start by declaring our props. So interface iProps. What is this thing going to receive? It's going to receive some houses. The houses will be this type of data as an array. So many of those things. We're going to export the component that we're creating. So export default function house list. this thing receives the houses, and the type of data is iProps, just like this. So now what we're going to do is return. I think you might be able to return a map right away, but I don't know why. To me, it seems better to wrap it in something. So I'm going to just put it in a fragment, even though it has no visual representation. At least we're just returning one node. And we're going to map the houses. So houses.map gives us a house. What are we going to show? Each one of these we're actually going to show as a big link. So you can click anywhere in there and it won't matter. It will take you to the house. So we'll say link. We need to give it a key because we're iterating. So house.id. And we need to give it an href to make it happy. So when clicked, it will take you to houses and then house.id. So in here, we're just going to put a big div. So you can click anywhere in this div and it won't matter. It will take you to the right place. So this div, it should have some classes so that it looks nice. So class name of some horizontal padding, some vertical padding that's slightly less. We'll change the cursor into a pointer so that the user knows that they can click it. It's going to be flex, and this will be flex wrap. Probably it doesn't need to be flex because I think I'm only displaying one column. So you could delete those if you want, but it should be good to go. We'll see later how that works out. So in this second div here, oh, yes, no, don't delete that. You do need the flex. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to do. Inside of each of these homes, we're going to have a left and a right side. So you definitely need flex. Disregard everything I've been telling you. Okay, so inside of each of these houses divs, wrappers, we're going to have a first div on the left, which is the image. So this one will be on a small screen, it will be full width. On a medium screen, it will be a width of 1, 2, so half. So in here, what are we going to display? Another image. So it's our favorite thing to do, fill out the 450 props that need to be passed to the image component from Cloudinary. But let's just get it done. No point in complaining. So process.env.next public Cloudinary name. Next prop, we need the public ID of the image so that it knows what to display. Let's display an alt if it hasn't loaded yet or if it fails. So the address of the house. We want to secure, we want DPR auto, we want quality auto. Our initial width will be 350. I found has worked pretty well. Our height for that will be a calculation converting 350 into 16 by 9 format. So that'd be 9 divided by 16 times 350. Crop this so that it fills the space and choose which area to crop by gravity auto. Let's take a look. I'm gonna refresh. Maybe we have an error somewhere. Yep, looks like it. So let's try to find out what that is. Okay, image, something it doesn't like. React will try to recreate. Oh, unknown cloud name. So I must have messed up. Yes, that's true. Next public Cloudinary cloud name, like that. Make sure you're referencing the correct variable. Refresh. There we go. So there's our houses over here on the left. So yeah, each one of these houses is a flex where the left will be the image and the right will be some details about this. Unless we're down here on a small screen, we'll pop it over and stack those. Cool. So let's fill out the details on the right. So that would be in a separate div. We need to give this div some classes. So this will be on a small screen, we want a width of full. On a medium screen, we want a width of half, 50%. On a small screen, we want padding left of 0. And on a medium screen, we want a padding left of 4. So in here, we're going to have an H2 where we style it a little bit just to make the text a little bit bigger. So this will be the address of the house. And then below the H2, we're just going to display how many bedrooms it has. So house.bedrooms, I'm going to put the bed like this, and then we'll put house like that. So come back here. We've now got, this is the 100 Richmond house. We can click it and it will bring us to this. Or we can do Spadina, Yonge Street, etc. So here's the cool thing. If we zoom into just these two, the left updates. Zoom out, move it in, there it shows up. Zoom into here, 1. So we fully attached the map and the bounding boxes of the map to what it's querying and displaying, which is very much how Airbnb does it. So as the user moves the map, bounding box updates, it requeries, and you're always looking fresh, which is a really cool and smooth experience. There's no flicker at all. It's a really nice UI to work with. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. It's fully functional now, the homepage. We're going to be adding some additional functionality to it. We're going to add a search box. So you could just say, take me to Toronto, take me to New York, wherever you want to go to. We're also going to be, as you hover the house here on the left, it highlights the one you're hovering on the right so that there's some sort of connection between the right and the left. Otherwise, like, which over here is this 50 Spadina? It's sort of hard or impossible to tell unless you know the names of the roads. So that's what's coming up next, but that's all for this video.